The chemo drip clicked steadily, like a metronome counting down the hours I had left. I, Sophia Grant, lay propped against thin pillows in a Tacoma hospital room, the kind where the walls were painted a shade of beige meant to calm, but only made everything feel more sterile. My body ached from the first round of treatment, a deep bone-weary pain that made even breathing feel like effort. Snow tapped softly against the window, each flake dissolving on contact, as if it too couldn't bear to linger. My sister Amelia sat beside me, legs crossed neatly, her blonde hair styled perfectly despite the hour. She wore a soft cashmere sweater and carried the faint scent of vanilla lotion. Just some routine paperwork. Soft, she said gently, sliding a thick folder onto my lap. Power of attorney stuff. You know, in case the treatments get rough. Derek and I want to make sure we can step in if you need us. No pressure. I trusted her. Amelia had always been the responsible one, the one who organized family holidays, remembered everyone's allergies, and brought homemade soup when I first got the diagnosis. My hand shook slightly as I took the pen she offered. I scanned the first page quickly, saw familiar legal jargon about medical decisions, and signed where she indicated. I didn't read further. The room spun a little from the nausea meds wearing off, and exhaustion pulled at me like gravity. That night, sleep came in uneasy fragments. I kept seeing the way Amelia's eyes flicked away when I signed, a micro-expression I tried to dismiss as paranoia. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from her. Love you. Rest up. Then another notification from an old college friend. Hey. Saw this, thought you should know. A link to Amelia's Instagram story showed her and Derek standing in a gleaming kitchen showroom, arms around each other, grinning at granite samples. The caption, finally building our forever home. Grateful for family support through everything. My stomach tightened. Forever home? They lived in a modest townhouse. The timing felt off, too close to my hospital stay. I told myself it was coincidence. Maybe they were planning ahead in case the worst happened. But something cold settled in my chest, heavier than the chemo fatigue. Days blurred. I forced myself to walk the hospital corridors, gripping the handrail, determined not to call for the nurse. Passing an open door, I overheard a patient discussing power of attorney with a social worker. The words successor beneficiary and financial proxy lodged in my mind. Back in my room, I pulled out the folder Amelia had left. Flipping past the page I'd signed, my breath hitched. Buried midway, successor beneficiary, Derek Lang. My name, Sophia Grant, listed as primary, but with clauses that shifted everything to Derek if I became incapacitated or worse. Memories flooded back unbidden. 2 Thanksgivings ago, at Nana Clara and Papa Edward's house overlooking the lake, I'd volunteered to handle their property taxes and maintenance. Derek had joked, "You're too put together for someone without kids." Papa Edward had clapped my shoulder. "That's why she'll take care of things when we're gone." It had felt like praise then. Now it echoed like a warning. I requested a meeting with the hospital's social worker, a kind woman in her late 20s with oversized glasses. She pulled up the scanned document. This is a durable power of attorney granting medical and financial authority to your sister Amelia. If anything happens to her, it defaults to Derek. She paused, reading my face. Is everything all right? I nodded, throat tight. Just clarifying. Back by the window, watching a squirrel navigate bare branches against the gray sky, I whispered to the empty room, "They think I won't make it." The realization landed softly at first, then with crushing weight. They weren't just preparing contingencies. They were planning around my absence. I began noting details in a small notebook. Dates Amelia stopped asking about my scans, who had access to my insurance portal, the exact wording on the document. The betrayal didn't roar. It hummed in the background, persistent and invasive, like the metallic taste lingering after each infusion. A week later, during physical therapy, I overheard Amelia's voice around the corner. "She's not pulling through this round. Just keep pushing the transfers quietly. No one will question it." Derek's reply came tinny over speakerphone. "Got it. For the family." I froze, grip tightening on the rail until my knuckles whitened. Their footsteps faded, leaving me trembling. Back in my room, I didn't cry. I sat motionless, the pulse of betrayal heavy in my veins. I wasn't being overlooked. I was being methodically removed. Nana Clara invited me for Sunday dinner a few nights later. "It'll be good to have everyone together again," she said over the phone, her voice warm but distant. I almost said no, but a stubborn hope lingered that maybe I'd find answers in the familiar routines. The house smelled of roast chicken and polished wood, but comfort eluded me. I was seated at the far end of the table, near the drafty sliding door, while Amelia and Derek occupied the center like hosts. They looked polished, coordinated, the picture of stability. Conversation swirled around me. Papa Edward discussed lake house renovations, Derek nodding knowingly as if ownership was already his. Nana Clara smiled softly. "It's reassuring to know the legacy stays protected within the family." No one addressed me directly. I barely touched my plate. The erasure felt deliberate. A quiet rewriting of roles where I became the invisible guest in my own bloodline. Driving home alone, an old radio hymn played. But my mind looped one question. When did I become peripheral in the family I helped sustain? I'd covered repairs on their roof, co-signed Derek's early business loans when his credit was shaky, quietly paid medical bills for Amelia's kids during tight times. All without fanfare. Now receipts mattered more for proof than reimbursement. Unable to sleep, I dug through old files on my laptop and found an unsent video in Nana Clara's email drafts. Her face filled the screen, framed by floral wallpaper. "My assets will be divided equally between my granddaughters, Sophia and Amelia. That's what family means, fairness above all." She hesitated, then saved instead of sending. Watching it, tears came not from pain alone, but from being seen, even briefly, in a version of the past. The next day, I confronted Nana Clara gently on the phone. "Why the changes?" she sighed. "We love you, sweetheart. But Amelia has children. A husband building something lasting. You understand, legacy requires tough calls. It's not personal." The assumption of my understanding stung deeper than anger. After hanging up, I began compiling records, bank transfers I'd made, texts requesting favors, co-signed documents. Each piece a fragment of the full picture, only I saw clearly. Derek called late one evening. "Don't make this messy, Sophia. Focus on your health. We appreciate everything, but clinging won't help anyone." His calm tone masked the threat. I saved the voicemail, then created a secure folder labeled Evidence. Inside went the video, statements, screenshots. I didn't act yet. Truth needed gathering before summoning. Late winter brought a deceptive warmth. At the outpatient clinic, a nurse handed me an envelope I expected to be lab results. Instead, crisp legal papers, property transfer for the family lake house, once promised to me after summers spent painting shutters, now deeded to Derek. Signatures from Nana Clara and Papa Edward stared back. My fingers went numb. This wasn't planning anymore. It was execution. I visited the family attorney, Mr. Harlan, in his unchanged office with dusty books and green carpet. "The will was revised shortly after your diagnosis," he said flatly. "You're no longer primary beneficiary." When I asked when, he shifted uncomfortably. "Around your first oncology admission." I left without raising my voice, but his twitch suggested he sensed consequences brewing. That night on my porch despite the cold, I drafted a message to Amelia I ultimately deleted. Instead, I began a letter. You erase me on paper. Let's see how that holds when truth surfaces. My resolve steadied. The guest house I'd repainted years ago flashed in memory, Papa Edward saying, "This will be for you girls someday." The joke felt cruel now. March brought deeper aches. At billing, the clerk mentioned my support fund restructured under Trustee Derek's authority. A friend in county records confirmed an LLC filed under my social security number post-hospitalization. Address linked to Derek's business. They'd built a shell company around my identity for asset parking, clean legally on surface. Devastating morally. I drove unannounced to Nana Clara's house. Folder in hand. Amelia answered, Derek looming behind with a smug tumbler. I handed over LLC registration prints. Clever move, I said evenly. Derek shrugged. Safety net for the family. Nana Clara's voice sharpened from inside. Not now, Sophia. I stepped forward. When is the right time? When I'm gone. Silence answered louder than denial. Amelia joined me on the porch later. Cardigan pulled tight. You were dying. Soft. Someone had to carry things forward. I have kids. The calculation, her future over my survival, hung raw. You didn't protect the family, I replied softly. You protected your version of it. That night, I uploaded scans of everything. Power of attorney, will drafts, LLC filings, transfers, a new folder, if they deny again. An invitation arrived from Amelia for a family unity dinner at Nana's gold embossed. Casual attire. I arrived dressed sharply. Neutral. Observer mode. A seating placed me near the pantry. Far from center. No questions about treatment. Mid-dessert. Amelia stood with wine glass. Thanks especially to Sophia for her grace during this transition. Her strength inspires us all. Derek mouthed across the table. It's done. I smiled thinly. Phone recording discreetly under the table. The performance of gratitude while erasing me fueled cold determination. A bank voicemail later warned of mortgage default on a Yakima property registered under my name, co-signed by Derek. I confirmed details then compiled. Toast audio. Fraud docs. LLC records. Certified letter to Mr. Harlan followed. Evidence attached. Implications clear. 2 days later, an anonymous voicemail directed me to the basement mailbox. Inside, an unaltered will copy from 2 years prior. My name bold as co-beneficiary. Proof accumulated. An old high school acquaintance in records sent the original pre-edited will metadata, my signature present. Later excised. Timestamps aligned perfectly. I prepared certified copies. Envelopes for key parties and potentially the local paper. At the next gathering celebrating Amelia and Derek's new home. Legacy in motion, Derek toasted my sacrifice and grace. Eyes turned my way expectantly. I raised my glass. To legacy, may truth never hide beneath false grace. Applause faltered unevenly. Nana Clara's jaw tightened. Derek looked away. They sensed the shift but not its full force. Earlier, I'd notarized the original will copies and prepped distributions. Calling Mr. Harlan. I listed my holdings, metadata, statements, recordings. You don't want to ruin the family name, he cautioned. You already did with better paper. The line went silent. A padded package arrived unmarked from Nana Clara, the bracelet she'd once promised for my birthday. Engraved, to the strongest girl I know. Amelia had likely hidden it. I laid all evidence on the kitchen table. Wills. LLC filings. Transfers. Bracelet as symbolic theft, then sealed folders. Confrontation day, I delivered them personally. At the kitchen table facing Nana Clara, Papa Edward, Amelia, Derek, I slid folders across. Amelia opened hers confidently until pages turned her face pale. I played Nana Clara's old video. Equal division between Sophia and Amelia. Fairness is the foundation. Silence stretched taut. Papa Edward asked where I got it. Archived. Time-stamped. Verified. Amelia stood abruptly. This is manipulation. Derek leaned in calmly. Video doesn't override legal reality. I met his eyes. It overrides reputation. I left them with the evidence. Pausing on the porch as wind whispered through trees. Text to Mr. Harlan. Delivered. His number deleted. The morning after. Silence reigned, no calls. No apologies. 3 days later. Revisiting the basement mailbox yielded another early will version confirming my status. I confronted Mr. Harlan again with it and a recorder. He signed a statement acknowledging the original existed and his role in suppression. Email blast to extended family. This was never about money. It was erasure. Now restored in ink. Attachments included everything. Housekeeper's voicemail later described Nana Clara sitting motionless, holding the returned bracelet, staring at the door. State Bar notification confirmed Mr. Harlan's investigation for conflicts. Forgery implications. Derek's LLC accounts froze after fraud report. No public names, but the quiet dissolution of their finance ties spoke volumes. Amelia's late-night voicemail whispered excuses about protecting the family, no true apology. I deleted it. In the mirror, one morning. Hair regrowing unevenly. Bracelet clasped as armor rather than memory. I saw not victim but survivor. Sketches for a non-profit, legal aid for exploited patients, filled a folder labeled Next. The Ledger Foundation opened quietly in a small brick building, financial justice for those whose trust became contracts. First client, an older woman whose son forged loans against her home. You're not alone, I told her. I was you once. Her eyes held tentative hope. That evening, Nana Clara appeared at my door with the bracelet I'd left behind. We sat on the porch in long silence. We forgot to protect you, she admitted softly. Or chose not to. She left a restored will copy. No embrace. But acknowledgement. No further calls came. A local headline noted a family firm's quiet closure after review. I saved it as closure marker. Journaling returned, presence restored not through words, but unerasable absence. The foundation grew modestly. Mornings brought light through clean windows. Intake forms. Quiet purpose. Another woman shared her story. I guided her path. Home at dusk. Bracelet on wrist felt earned. Draft email to Nana Clara remained unsent. Forgiveness granted. But memory kept. Love sometimes forgets how to return. Yet family redefined becomes those who stand when name alone remains. Betrayal taught silence as both weapon and tool. Erasure ends only if permitted. We cannot control others' stories about us. But we author our return with proof. Patience. Purpose. To anyone feeling invisible in their own life, you exist. Refusing disappearance is strength's quietest form. The storm passed. Room remained for what I chose next.